So you're standing at the moment on the Hoverton Great Broad Nature Trail, which is our special little gem of a place here in Hoverton. It's situated on Hoverton Great Broad on the River Bure. It's only accessible by boat, and this is a really special, beautiful haven where, as you can hear, the birds are beautifully singing. We've got a whole range of diverse bird species and plants and butterflies and insects here, which just makes the place really, really wonderful. And we're here on Hoverton Great Broad because the Broad over decades had been left into a really poor, degraded state through eutrophication. And so since the 80s, when basically I worked with catch and sensitive farming teams and worked with Angling Water and the Environment Agency, all worked to trying to start reducing down the phosphate levels in the water. And we got to a point where we were probably able to start basically to kickstart the Broad into some sort of a recovery. And so the idea was around trying to basically get some funding together. So we've got money from EU Life and HLF, a very successful lottery bid of £4.5 million, which was a great sort of feather in the cap for Natural England to get hold of that in the first place. And then with that, we've undertaken a massive restoration project to the Broad, which we're hoping now this summer, when we do our next set of analysis, we'll be able to start showing that we've kicked it into a slightly more favourable condition. So we're hoping it's going to be showing signs of that improvement and that sustained improvement over time. So yeah, fingers crossed.
So here we are on Hoverton Great Broad. We're at the western end of the Broad now. It's a nice big body of water for this part of the world, about 36 hectares. It's one of the few large bodies of water in the Broad that doesn't have navigation on it, which has made it quite a wildlife haven in many ways. But it's suffered greatly from nutrient enrichment, which meant it became very clogged up with soft sediment. The algal blooms as a result of high levels of nitrogen and phosphorus in the water meant that it was gaining sediment at a rate of about a centimetre a year. That soft sediment is quite inimical to plant growth. So when we decided that restoration was the thing to do here, the first thing we looked at was the sediment and the water depth. In places, the water depth was only maybe 10-15 centimetres. And again, any plants that might get established in there didn't survive the winters. They just get blown out by the turbulence caused by the wind. And also, of course, the large numbers of diving ducks, coots and swans that tend to uproot them. Really, the first major thing to do was to get a bit of water depth. We took, I think, around about 55,000 cubic metres of soft sediment out of here, which was dredged out. That's given us an average depth over the Broad of about 1.1 metres. The original suggestion for that was that a swan with its bottom in the air and its head in the water can reach down about a metre. So we thought we'd make it just a bit more than a metre, and that will really annoy them and they won't be able to reach all the plants. But really, it's about reducing the wind turbulence effects. So all that sediment was taken out over a period of 3 winters. And of course, the main thing that we had to deal with then was where to put it. Rather than put it into a load of lorries and drive it around the countryside and put it in a hole somewhere, or spread it on agricultural land, which was going to be difficult because of its high nutrient levels, we went for inlake disposal. What we've done is we've put a line of these large geo bags, 25-metre long bags, which have been set into a trench in the bottom of the Broad, and then sediment pumped into them. And once they're fully inflated, they make a bund. And then the rest of the stuff just pumped in behind. And what we're seeing here is basically a big chunk of fen that was excavated from Woodbastwick marshes, the next part of the NNR. So we took about 4 hectares worth of that, spread it along here, and it's taken extremely well, as you can see. Eventually this will have skinned over completely and should be indistinguishable from the original fen. It may take another 10 years to cover over completely. That doesn't matter. We've got areas of shallow open water in there which are very popular with a lot of the duck and various wading birds and such like, and also amphibians like it. It's a new chunk of habitat, if you like, which we felt was an elegant way of getting over the disposal problem, of getting rid of all this sediment, which it's always a difficulty is where you get rid of the stuff. So this is a good way of doing it. So this end of the Broad is where we've started to see a recovery. taking place. Two things going on here. One is that it's quite well flushed. There's quite a good current through here from the two entrances, so it's flushed quite well with good quality water now. And the other thing is, when we put this in place, we also put some netting in front of it just to keep the geese off for a couple of years, which, combined with the slope of the bags, gave an area of shallow open water with good light penetration, and that was where we started seeing a few more aquatic plants starting to turn up. And we've got one here. This spectacular item has got a name a lot more impressive than the actual plant. This is Potmageton pectinatus. It's not the rarest and most prized aquatic in the world, but it is, in my view, a considerable improvement on what was in here before, which was nothing. Later on in the summer, I'd expect it to cover virtually the whole of this eastern end, which is what it did last year. And of course, when we've got this and the other plants that are coming in with it, they're then providing refuges for the zooplankton, the water fleas, the Daphnia. They're the things that graze down the photosynthetic floating algae that make the water turbid. So reversing the vicious circle that you get when you get lots of nutrient enrichment, lots of floating algae, turbid water, the plants die and so on. Where there's plants and there's refuges for the algae, there's places for them to hide from predatory fish. So they can graze down the algae and they get clearer water and then more plants. They're also starting to stabilise the new bottom sediment as well. So we would expect to see a continuing improvement in here. We're already seeing quite a lot of Odonata, the dragonflies and damselflies around these areas. Again, the nymphs can hide in amongst this stuff to avoid being eaten by fish. And it's really perhaps a slightly faster start of a recovery than we'd anticipated. It's gone a bit quicker than we thought it might.
Everybody has to come by boat, as we're on a series of islands, the Nature Trail. So most of our visitors are holiday makers, so they come on their cruises or perhaps on a day boat, like the visitors who just arrived. But we also have a limited number of ferry trips that we run in conjunction with a local ferry company. People can canoe here. We've got a fabulous new canoe mooring that's proving really popular with canoeists, really making their lives much easier as they feel safer getting in and out onto the moorings. So the school visits are definitely a collaboration, because the only way to get the groups here is with Broads Tours, and they're the ones who organise the school visits. And we're the sort of venue where they experience the actual seeing the nature trail, as they get a sort of introduction to the nature trail on the boat. So they get a 45-minute chat learning about the history of the Broads, and about the sort of landscape and geology and what the Broads is used for, particularly farming and tourism. And then they arrive here, and they're usually here for about an hour at the moment. And the three activities that the groups do here are the walk with one of us. Then we've got a little mini museum that we set up with the evidence of what grows and lives here. And then we also have, so that they can have an idea of what's under the water, we have a couple of tanks we fill with pond-dipped creatures and plants, so they can see what the underwater world looks like. But we normally have two contrasting ones, so they can see the value of really delicate, sensitive nature trail pond, and then a bit more of the sort of robust species that have to live in the river environment. So this year we've got several bat walks that we're doing, so spring and then summer, and then two in the autumn. We did a dawn chorus walk in the end of April, which is quite challenging, getting everybody here for 5 a.m, so we don't tend to do very many of those. We're also planning to do biofluorescent walks with a local provider called Reveal Nature, to try and investigate what's visible under UV light that we can't normally see in the daylight. So we'll be bringing torches, UV torches, and sort of exploring what birds, animals, plants show under ultraviolet light, so we can really talk about hopefully the evolution of that and why species might need that benefit. And also the water taxi service. This is our first full season, hopefully successful water taxi, once or twice a month, an afternoon session in collaboration with the Horning Foot Ferry, bringing people over from Salhouse Broad, so a shuttle service to get everybody here, and we'll be here meeting and greeting those people as they come. And then we have quite a few school groups as well come in collaboration with Broads Tours. So in addition to our planned guided walk programme, we do welcome and can arrange access for special interest groups, perhaps local brownies and scouts, but also groups like the Greenlight Trust, who came last year to visit us, who were mostly here for a wellbeing walk at the end of one of their programmes of access that the Greenlight Trust provide with people who just need be outside in green space, just to improve their mental health and their general well-being. And that was really productive and successful experience, so I hope to build on that in the future.